On a video where I debunked the Fukushima radioactive rice harvest in Japan image and the quote that radioactive rice is going to be served at the Olympics in Japan, I didn't bring it up, but if anybody wants to know this, and I don't care if you like hearing it, one of the most racially motivated, xenophobic, and over-the-top, out and proud nationalist organizations and groups you'll run into that make the KKK seem reasonable is your average traditionalist Oriental anywhere in the Orient. The majority of Orientals are not racist. The majority of older Orientals are not racist. And the majority of truck owners aren't assholes just because their cars sound like that. That's an actual working vehicle. It has to sound that way or it wouldn't frickin' do what it needs to do, which is to basically drag a train out of a hole. But anyway, the loud, obnoxious majority of traditionalist Orientals, the minority of them, the loud ones, the majority of them, are actual full-on neo-Nazi racist sons of bastards in every single culture, because being afraid of anybody who's an outsider and then rationalizing it afterwards was a survival tactic. It has a basis for why it's there. I don't like it. And the other reason is Japan invaded South Korea at one point, so they have a stick up their ass about that. Not too long ago. So there's a lot of racism. It is racism because the people right now, most of the people right now are not responsible for an invasion in your country if you're in Korea. Doesn't matter where you're in, South Korea or best Korea. They didn't do nothing to you. So, if you just hate Japanese or Koreans or whatever, it's just racism, alright? So let's get that out of the way. I didn't bring it up in the video. It's not that it's a hot button subject, it's that most of you don't know that. I live on the Pacific Rim. Yes, that's where the kaijus and the Jaegers are at. That's where that movie was filmed. It's totally like that. We have one right. You can almost see it from over the horizon from here. It's actually that way. I want 800-foot tall mecha. Is that wrong? Okay, they're only 100-foot tall, but still, only 100-foot tall robot. Anyway, in 2011, October 18th, rice from Fukushima, an accident that happened in March, tests on batches in Fukushima grown in 48 parts of the prefecture were declared safe to consume by humans by the new standard they came up with. Well, they changed the standards. Yes, beautiful girl by Dana. And all of you assholes, yes, they changed the standard. What did they change the standard to? A lower standard or a lower standard? What are they testing? Becquerel level. Technically, beautiful girl by Dana and whatever his name is, the other idiot, are not technically lying. They did lower the standard. European Union standard is 500 becquerels per kilogram for European Union standard foods. Today. What was the standard set in Fukushima for being considered safe? 100. Yes, it's a lower standard, a lower tolerance for anything radioactive. You had to have food, if it was declared safe, be literally more safe than European foods. Because Japanese are also very, very nationalistic and Nazi about one other thing. In case you didn't notice, Japanese people are notorious for having higher standards for food. So if they say safe is barely passing a food restriction, that means it's gold medal standard compared to European Union, and holy crap, much better than American food, because they're paranoid about radiation, because Japan is a place we dropped nukes on, so they have a reason to be. They got used to, a very long period of time, of being paranoid about radioactive elements in their environment because Americans put it there by detonating nuclear fucking warheads. Do any of you history book? Or even think of it. Yes, Beautiful Girl by Dana is going to somehow prove to you that the Japanese government is less likely to give a shit about radiation standards. Again, The maximum they would permit was 100 becquerels per kilogram in 2011. The maximum in the European Union now is 500. No, back then too. Yes, it was safe to eat. They didn't care about what the radiation source was at that point. It had to be under 100 becquerels or at 100 becquerels maximum per kilogram. But why is that? Because the human body emits 114 becquerels per kilogram, you bastards. I'm talking to beautiful girl by Dana and what's his name? The other beautiful girl. The other girly man. So anyway, yeah, they had stricter standards than the European Union. Why? Because they figured that would make it a lot safer to have safer standards. But somehow or other, you only hear that it's a lower standard. Technically, they're not lying. So anyway, but, no, there isn't any but. Shut up. Anyway, test batches done to detect radiation the easiest way possible by just detecting it in the plants. They'll concentrate stuff. That's your claim. You're claiming your body bioaccumulates, and so do plants. You can't have your bullshit standard over here working your way, but when it works against you, you got to drop it and bring up some other magical meat. By the way, it doesn't necessarily, some of these things don't actually bioaccumulate. Some of them do, obviously. How do you reduce the likelihood of absorbing it if you're going to cheat, making safer food? Using potassium-based fertilizer that blocks cesium absorption, importing nutrients, building up the ground, taking out the contaminated material and replacing it with non-contaminated material. That's kind of how you do things in a country that literally had to scrape off the top layer of dirt everywhere around a couple of cities so that they wouldn't die. But yeah, why would Japanese know anything about nuclear waste and how to fucking deal with it and contamination and surviving it? Japan will survive a nuclear war when we won't, because none of us sons of bitches here know what we're doing. Obviously, because beautiful girl by Dana and what's his name actually keep talking like they know shit. Well, they might know shit. No, I don't think they do. I don't think they know how to make a sewer system. That's the other reason you're alive, by the way. We won't go there. It's nasty. By 2016, 0.1% of the food items tested, 100% testing standard, by the way, exceeded radiation limit by 1%. So it was 101 becquerels per kilogram, while your body is 114. You are not able to pass food inspection in Japan as a food item if you were butchered because you're too radioactive. No, you. I'm using the national average in the United States. What is the national average in Japan for radiation at becquerels per kilogram? Lower. A lot lower. Because they're paranoid about getting radiated. Because they were. But that can't... No. It's like saying we have to design rockets that go through space and go straight through the Van Allen belts to kill ourselves, because that way we can someday be accused of faking the moon landing or some shit. Anyway, that 1% of 0.1% of food that exceeded by 1% or less were unregulated backyard farms in a city. Hiroshima. Wild mushrooms in Nagasaki, and game meat in Fukushima Prefecture. That was it. That's out of the entire country. That's not just Fukushima. They test every food. Because it's Japan, they tested it anyway. They have higher standards, better standards, lower standards, because they have a lower tolerance for bullshit. And they had to do 100% testing because a goddamn accident happened involving radiation. So they switched to 100% testing. And notice that in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, some of the food wasn't safe. And this was an unregulated backyard farmer who had been eating it for years. But maybe, just maybe, it was from Fukushima in 2016. By the way, it took till 2016 for them to detect anything at all. So we can blame it on Fukushima. There's a hunter in Japan that got a deer. None of the foods that actually tested, there was only like, there was a couple of hundred things that were detected, a couple of hundred sources. They were not raised using potassium-enhanced fertilizer, that's normal fertilizer, that blocks cesium absorption. Why? Because they were fucking organic farmers that were avoiding fertilizer. So of course it enhances it. The test farms, by the way, in Fukushima did not use any enhanced fertilizer. They tested directly from the dirt. That's why they took longer to grow and had lower yield. Not because of the radiation, but because they weren't growing it with fertilizer. If you add fertilizer to the ground, it reduces the ability to absorb anything. Cesium was in 0.0007% of all rice bags in 2016, but it was still below the limits for cesium specific testing with 100% testing rate. This required blanket radiation tests, checks all over the country, and for Fukushima costs a lot. In Fukushima, testing all of the rice cost 6 billion yen a year, but they didn't find anything by that point that was worth being concerned with. The odds of you getting cancer from it were very low because, again, their standards is 5 times lower than European standards, which means it's 5 times better. But yeah, technically, Dana Dunford didn't lie. Permission granted to anybody who wants to upload this part of the video. It's 11 minutes. So they're planning on phasing out 100% testing and going to random testing like everybody else does, including the European Union, with the same limit. They're not going to go European standard because they want to be healthier. When are they going to do it? It coincides with the Olympics in Japan. After the Olympics, they're switching to random testing, not before. After, because of health concerns. When they have better standards than European unions. Japanese government intends to discharge 1 million tons of radioactive polluted water into the Pacific Ocean. What's the barnacle level? Soviet Union controlled 300 kilometers in response to Chernobyl radiation spill and ruined the country. So you're acknowledging Chernobyl was worse than Fukushima. Thank you for acknowledging it, Mr. South Korean propagandist. Goose-stepping neo-Nazi fuckhead. The Japanese government is Abe the demon of the global village. Whatever. Is there an election this year and this is being promoted? You know? Or is there an election in 2020? I don't know. They have an emperor in Japan, for fuck's sake. Why don't you get rid of that? Okay, next question. I'll just do this at the end. But yeah, that first part of the video there, I want it duplicated, because every time you guys lie to me, I go look shit up. Just stop posting lies on my channel and I won't look this shit up and debunk your ass. They still don't let you fish right next to the... If they detect fish with radiation, they don't let you fish it anymore. Tom DeLonge to the Stars Academy cannot get the U.S. government to help build a UFO in 10 years for $1 billion in donations from UFO believers because it can't be done. Because the definition of a UFO, well, let's get on with it. A guy named Steve Justice claimed 30 years of Lockheed Martin employment, deputy science, vice deputy, president, advanced programs as of 2015. Assertion about this dream team of retired ex-military contractors working for Tom DeLonge for donations, trying to get $1 billion to build a fucking UFO that isn't guaranteed to work. Gee, I wonder why they would do... You don't assemble a team with the PhD depth they have unless you have something to offer or something to acquire. No, they can't do it because they can't create anti-gravity or any other tropes. They can build an airplane that's a flying wing, but we already have hundreds of them. Most of the designs that are round wings don't fly correctly. I'm only addressing this very, very superficially just because it's funny to think that the UFO suppression by the government is going to be fixed by the government paying for it. No, it's going to be donations. This is more scam money. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.